And I think that's really challenging for women because we're holding 3 jobs. We're holding the job, you know, the 9 to 5 that you talked about earlier.
Yes.
We're holding the domestic job, like food on table, clean house, all of that stuff. And then we're holding the emotion work as well, which is like a 3rd job, and that's where the triple shift comes from. So the day job, the domestic job, and then the emotions work job. And it's exhausting. And it pretty much, in the majority, defaults to women. In a male-female partnership, it still very much defaults to a woman because society's norms and expectations, traditions, patterns of family behaviour, and I think often culture, true, and different cultures have different expectations around gender. But for me, one of the
Hello, welcome back to B3 Inspire. That triple shift. We want to unpack this. If this is you, I would like to ask you to stay and watch right to the end, because today we are unpacking a method to support women called the Fair Play Method. And we want to look at practical systems that will help you, support you at home, so it doesn't feel that you are running 2 shifts. And to help me talk about this is Rachel. Rachel, just for our audience, I would like you to tell us a bit more about you and why you in this sofa at B3 Inspire today.
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me, Betty.
A pleasure.
Delight to be here. So I'm Rachel Burton. I'm an educator. I'm a coach. I specialise in coaching women, and I'm also an activist, so campaigning for women's rights and gender equality. And I'm here because I'm also a Fair Play Method facilitator. So that means that I've been accredited by the Fair Play Policy Institute in the USA to use their methods to help women to renegotiate that division of labour at home. So when they get back from the 9 to 5, they're not clocking back on again to do another full job, or in fact 2 jobs, because these days we talk about the triple shift rather than the double shift. So yeah, we're going to unpick that and get into that, and practical tips to help women reduce their workload at home so that they can enjoy their lives more, be more present in their lives, and be more successful in their careers too. So that's me. Hi everyone.
That's incredible. Rachel, you talk about being a facilitator for the Fair Play Method in the UK. Just for clarity for our audience, how many facilitators do we have in the UK and actually across the globe?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's a US institute, so they have a much higher percentage of facilitators in America, because that's where the method, Fair Play Method, was born. So globally, I think there are about 300 of us, and it's growing. And in the UK, the last time I checked, there's under 10 of us. So it's kind of a newer thing in the UK and Europe, but a slightly older thing in the US. But it's only really been going since the early 2020s.
That's fantastic, and we are so excited to have you here to unpack this for us. To help us understand, what exactly is the Fair Play Method? What is it?
So, very simply, it's a method to help families understand the workload of running a family. So it's a system where you identify all the chores or the household tasks that need to get done, and also the family-related tasks that need to get done, so that division of work can be more equitably shared between whoever is in charge of the family. So if there's 2 parents, the 2 parents. If there's a single parent, maybe the single parent and extended family members or community members, so that there's not just one person holding that entire job, frankly, of running a home and running a family. So it's a methodology to help people to break down the tasks and then work out for each task what's involved. So the conception, the planning and the execution, and then trade that work so that it's a fairer and more equitable sharing out of the workload.
I love what you're talking about. It's more equitable. I think I'm just going to say for myself, or as such a control freak, and would be a case of I come home and I want to just take charge, as you do. but then you become so tired and you resent sometimes because you are exhausted and you feel you're doing it all. And people around you might not necessarily know that this is happening.
And I think that's really interesting. You mentioned two things that are really at the heart of the Fair Play method. So the founder of the Policy Institute and the method, Eve Rodsky, she felt a lot like you. So she was running a home, family, high-powered job, and she felt resentful. And for 9 months, she tracked a spreadsheet. She kept a spreadsheet of all the things that she was doing to keep the home running, keep the family running. And she got really resentful about it.
I can imagine how long that spreadsheet would be.
Very long.
Making me think, if I have to do a spreadsheet, endless.
Well, she turned her spreadsheet into a book. So the book is called, it's here, The Fair Play Story, and it's all about sharing the mental load, rebalance your relationship and transform your life. And the book's kind of developed into this methodology, and it's developed into a documentary, so you can watch this fantastic documentary film by Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and it was produced by Reese Witherspoon's production company, so Hello Sunshine.
Hello Sunshine.
And so there's a website, there's a movement now of particularly women, but it's for all families, and families led by different people, not just women. So male-led families, single-parent families, whatever kind of family you've got, it can help you. And it's just really to break down all of that invisible work. So the thinking about the task, the thinking about the family.
Which is really exhausting sometimes because I don't know about you, Rachel, but I am one of those people that will have to plan everything mentally. Like, for instance, recording of this, I've been planning it for like weeks in my head. And that's a lot of cognitive overload. And it's the same for being at home with the children. And I wonder whether there are people like me out there who feel that even before the implementation, there's a lot of work that would have gone on mentally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, let's just break it down and do a really simple example.
Yes.
Let's imagine that you're planning your son's birthday party.
Yes.
Right? So the event is in, let's say, 2 weeks' time. Before that specific day, you will have done so much thinking and planning before the day.
So that's normal.
So you've got to think about, which other students or kids are we going to invite?
Yes.
Are we going to do an e-invite?
Yes.
Which parents do we email? Do we email both parents, one parent? Let's get the list together. Then the venue. Are we going to have it at home?
Cake.
Are we going to have, the cake.
And if you're a bit extra like me.
Yeah. So a massive amount of thinking goes into running a family, running a household. Then there's the planning bit, so, consulting with your family members, kind of what birthday event would your son like? Can your partner be present? Is he already committed with perhaps your other child? So the consulting people bit, and then the execution bit, that's the full day. But before you get to the full day of the birthday party, you've done 2 weeks of thinking and planning first.
That's right.
And often that thinking and planning, or the conception and the planning bit, is invisible. So people who aren't holding that don't appreciate what goes on behind the scenes. It's like when we see a film or we go to a play and it's astonishing and beautiful, but we as the audience don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. And it would be a phenomenal amount of work.
That's right.
And it's the same thing running a family. A huge amount of thinking and planning goes into daily household tasks, family tasks. And that invisible work is the thing that's frankly exhausting, particularly women, and burning us out and having negative impacts on our physical health, our mental health, and also our careers.
Yes.
Also our careers.
I mean, when you mention careers straight away, all I can think of is a very good friend of mine who just said to me, I have to give up my career because this friend of mine had a child that needed more attention because of health.
Yeah.
And it was the woman that had to give up the job. And she had to be the one that had to stay at home looking after this child. Now the child is done uni, has finished masters, and she feels that she's given all of those years, and now where does she start with her career?
And I think that's really challenging for women because we're holding 3 jobs. We're holding the job, you know, the 9 to 5 that you talked about earlier.
Yes.
We're holding the domestic job,
Yes.
like food on table, clean house, all of that stuff. And then we're holding the emotion work as well, which is like a 3rd job, and that's where the triple shift comes from. So the day job, the domestic job, and then the emotions work job. And it's exhausting. And it pretty much, in the majority, defaults to women. In a male-female partnership,
yes,
it still very much defaults to a woman because society's norms and expectations, traditions, patterns of family behaviour, and I think often culture, true, and different cultures have different expectations around gender. But for me, one of the things that I kind of realised is we often sleepwalk into that kind of division of labour and that pattern of behaviour without necessarily choosing it for ourselves. Maybe because it's the family that we grew up in.
That's right.
So our mental model is, you know, mum holds that and dad holds that. If you grew up in a 2-parent household, and we don't necessarily question why that is, and question whether or not that's fair, or question, frankly, whether or not it's sustainable for the family, but also the individuals holding those different responsibilities.
I just wonder, in terms of like saying whether that's fair, and I love what you just said about the model, so where you grew up, or whether that be a cultural approach as to this is how it should be done, you know. And being a Christian, I'm a Christian, and being a Christian, we know that it's in the Bible it says that women's being submissive. And I think that submission in that Bible has been translated in a way that doesn't make that equity for other people. I don't know what your thoughts is about that.
So I think the world that we live in today is not the world that the Bible and most of those religious texts were written in 2,000 years ago. And I think there's 2 big changes. So one big change is child rearing used to be very much a communal experience. So I'm sure everyone's heard of the phrase around it takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
But that's how we used to live. We would live in villages and we would communally raise children together. So that's a vision of kind of the emotions work, making sure everyone's okay and smoothing over conflict and looking after the young ones. That was a communal workload. Shared
responsibility.
And then these days we don't live like that. So we still have our village, but we live in nuclear family units. And it's, you know, 2.4 children with the parents at home, and that sharing of the workload has reduced. And actually, you could argue the workload associated with running a family has massively increased. So you've got fewer people holding more work. Like it just doesn't fit. It doesn't work. So the way that we live in families, the way that we live in communities has massively changed. And I think also the expectations of women have changed. So particularly since the 1970s onwards, women have gone into the workplace and women are holding down full-time jobs.
That's right.
But the family that goes along with that has not changed to keep pace. So this is where the triple shifts come from. From the 1970s onwards, more and more women in the workplace holding down a full-time job, but still holding down the full-time family responsibility. That when women were, you know, the caregiver and the domestic manager at home, but not working full-time, that was more doable. That was perhaps a more equitable distribution of labour. But now we're doing 3 things rather than 1 or 2. And the maths just doesn't work.
I just wonder, has there been a research linked to death and divorce? Because this is where people then, of course, you resent, you become really exhausted and you're not present. The focus on building that relationship is probably not there.
I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but anecdotally, talking with women, yes, I think that the dissatisfaction with the lack of equity in the division of labour in the family and at home definitely leads to resentment, definitely leads to a lowering of satisfaction of your relationship, like how happy you are in your relationship. And anecdotally talking to women, there are more conversations about, do I want to still be in this partnership?
And I can't see it being a case of they're resenting because they don't want to do the work. But if they are exhausted, then there isn't the energy to build that relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I am just intrigued to see whether there is a research out there, whether there's a connection between maybe the triple shift and divorce.
I think we're sold this idea that relationships are supposed to be easy. It's a Hollywood film. They fall in love and it's all magical and wonderful and everyone lives happily ever after, with a few tribulations along the way.
Yeah.
It's not really real life. Like real life is, have I got clean pants in the drawer? Is the laundry done? Is the supermarket delivery on its way? Is it running late? I've got to get the kids out the door in 10 minutes. Or the parents are coming to visit for the weekend and we need to cater and we've got a family event and but I've got a big business meeting. And somewhere in that, all of that, and that's a lot, maintaining a relationship with your partner, maintaining a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
So having time for yourself to do, individual pursuits that make you happy, that give you space to be creative, to feel satisfied and fulfilled as an individual. Yeah. Self-care. Everything just gets squashed. So there is research. We can maybe get into that in a bit.
So Rachel, we have kind of discussed what the fair play really is. But what exactly is the fair play method?
Okay, so the method was invented by E. Brodsky and the Fair Play Policy Institute in America, and it is a way to think about household tasks and family tasks slightly differently. So they talk a lot about ownership rather than helping, and they also talk about ownership rather than helping.
Okay.
So it's a different mindset, it's a different way of thinking about it.
Okay. And
then breaking down each task into 3 chunks. So conception, planning, and execution.
CPE.
Okay. So if we think about how a family might work, you might have one family member, one parent, that is holding on to the conception and the planning. So talking about the birthday party we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Let's say that one parent, possibly the mum, she's doing the thinking about the birthday. She's doing the planning about the birthday.
Okay.
But on the day, the execution is perhaps the dad. Okay. He's doing the day. That's the visible work. Because everyone gets to see that, right? They get the cake on the table and the presents wrapped and the party games and all the young people enjoying themselves and having a fantastic time. That's the visible work, the day. But before you get to the day, the birthday itself,
there's lots of invisible planning that goes on.
All of that invisible work, including thinking about, the really kind of soft skill stuff around, which children we're going to invite, who gets on with who, is there any friction at the moment in the friendship group, how do we need to manage that?
So that's a conception stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the emotions work within that around like the people bit, the relational piece.
Yes.
So when we think about tasks in the family and we think about tasks at home, often the bit that people are aware of is the execution in the CPE, the doing bit.
Because that's what we see.
That's what we see.
Yeah.
And people don't see the C bit, the conception and the planning bit, which is a huge amount of work. And so when the Fair Play method is helping families to think about that distribution of labour and all of the work that goes into running a household and a family, it encourages people to think about the conception, the planning,
and the execution.
CPE. And what it says is that if you are holding that task, you hold all of it. You hold the conception and the planning and the execution.
I see.
And then that way you own it. That's all yours. So I mean, I've been trained in project management earlier in my career, and I think about it like a project management in the business world or in the work world. You conceive of the project, you plan the project, you deliver the project. Like,
that's it. It's like all package.
You're in charge of the project.
That's right.
Similar kind of idea with the CPE method and the ownership method and fair play method. It's like you own that one task from start to finish, all of it, until it's done. And that's really different from what often happens in families, is that one person holds the C and the P, the conception and the planning, and then someone else might do the execution, and then that's the person that kind of gets the reward, because they're the one that holds it when it's done.
That's right.
They're the one holding
the birthday
party.
Everyone sees.
Yeah. And so it's this idea of you own the task,
that's right,
start to finish, and you don't break up the C, P, and E.
That's very interesting. Does that mean that with such an approach, I mean, I'm just thinking me, there's some work that needs to be done as well. People like me that just want to take over and just want to do it because I've done it for years. So I know exactly what it needs to be done. So for people like me, and I'm sure there will be people who are listening who are very similar.
Yeah, me too. Also me.
What do you need to do? Because I can just be like, oh.
So I think
holding it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think there's a couple of things. So there's an education piece around talking openly with your partner, with your family about what does the full task look like. Because it might be that perhaps in a two-person household, or two-parent household, I should say, the other parent has no idea about what the C and the P is for that task, because it's invisible. Eve talks a lot, Eve Brodsky, the founder of the Fair Play Policy Institute and the Fair Play Method, she talks a lot about how does the mustard get into the fridge? And it's magic. There's a mustard fairy that just puts the mustard always in the fridge and never runs out. Well, there isn't really. There's
someone has to go to the shop. Someone has to pick that up. Someone has to come and unpack it, and then someone has to put it in the fridge. But
people who aren't responsible for the CP, for the mustard, have no idea how the mustard gets in the fridge.
That's right.
So there's an education piece where people need to understand what the full task looks like, start to finish. Conception, planning, not just the execution, putting the mustard on the sandwich and that's delicious. So there's an education piece. Then there's a piece around having a really, open conversation with your partner about, how much work this takes and how many of those tasks. And the Fair Play Method has identified 100 tasks that the average family needs to get done.
Because there are sometimes that it's not because the partners don't want to help, because you've done it, and therefore there hasn't been a conversation about you thinking these needs to be done. Or there are some that would also think you're good at it, so you get on and do it.
Yeah, but I would argue that a mechanic is good at fixing the car because they've trained. Right? I would argue that a teacher is good at teaching because they've learned how to be a teacher, like how to plan a lesson, how to work with young people. I would argue a hairdresser is good at cutting hair because they learn skills. You're not born automatically knowing how to be a hairdresser.
You've got to learn it.
You've got to learn it. It's the same thing with running a family and running a household. You learn those skills. So it's not an inborn female thing.
No.
It's a skill that we learn over time, and therefore it's a skill that anyone can learn. So your partner can learn it. If you've got older children, it's an invitation for them to start to learn some of those skills for when they move out and they move on and have their own family.
It's interesting you mentioned this. So when we had our discussion and we're thinking of actually recording this for our audience, I started doing the research and I wasn't really aware of this. So on the dinner table, I started having a conversation with my boys, trying to pick up what their take was. And Rachel, that evening, when we finished having dinner, my older son cleared the whole I was just like, oh my gosh, okay. Just on the back of that conversation, I think he was aware. He became very conscious of the fact that, oh, actually, you are doing a lot. And we need to step in and support. They do help. My boys do help.
Yeah.
But I think it was very obvious that having that conversation did change something.
And that's kind of what the research says, that's what the experience that we get back from clients from the Fair Play method, is that people are just completely unaware.
Yes.
And it's the mustard fairy.
Yeah.
But how does the mustard get in the fridge? I don't know. The fairy did it. Not a fairy. It's usually the mum. Usually, not always. But when people become aware of the inequitable share of the workload, you know, people want to step up. People want to help.
They want to help because they care.
But you can't fix something if you're not aware that it doesn't work fairly to begin with, right?
That's a good point.
It's not about blaming anyone.
No.
It's about we've inherited these models of running a family that no longer serve us, and that we kind of need to look at them again with fresh eyes and go, okay, what works for us?
Yes.
What works for our family? And we're not aiming for 50-50 split of tasks, because that might not be fair for your family.
That's right.
So it's not 50-50 split, you might have a 70-30 split, but for your family, with your circumstances, that is the equitable, like, divvying up of tasks and workload. So it's about what's fair, what's equitable, not necessarily what's equal. Because my equal and my equitable will be different from yours.
That's so true, because of course I was just thinking, as you're saying, I'm thinking about the emotional side. It depends. There are some families that emotionally children will just drawn to either the mother or to the father, depending on the setup. So if we are saying 50-50 split, there will be some work that automatically you're going to have to do it, because it just happens to be that you are the person that maybe the children will feel they have to come to you first.
Yeah, and I think in the 100 tasks that Fair Play Method have identified, I'm pretty sure there's one, and we're going to check in a minute. There's one that's about like middle of the night hugs. You know, when the young ones wake up and they need comfort in the middle of the night.
That's right.
So one parent will hold that, but you could hold that. You could hold that on a Monday, and your partner could hold that on a Tuesday. So you can divvy up those tasks differently according to what works for your family. And equally, let's say you've got a really big, like 8 a.m. breakfast meeting with some important people that you want to work with.
Yes.
You don't want to hold that card the night before, so you might trade.
That's right.
It's called
it's all about communication, isn't it?
And that's one of the key.
Transparent.
That's one of the key principles about the Fair Play method. It's about communication and collaboration. It's team effort, and let's be honest and open and talk with your partner about what's actually going on.
Fantastic. Rachel, I'm excited of what is yet to come in the series, in the episodes. I know next episode we're looking at the key principles of the Fair Play method. But I wonder, what would be your key takeaway for our audience today? Before you share that, I want to remind you, if you are watching, remember to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's empower this woman together. Let's share this. Like the video and of course subscribe. From our statistics, it shows that there are so many of you that are watching that are not subscribed to this channel. We want to encourage you to subscribe, because that's your way of you supporting us to support you. Thank you, Rachel. 2 takeaways that you want to give to our audience.
Okay, so I think if you're thinking, oh, this resonates with me, and you want a little bit more, I'd say an easy way in is go to fairplaylife.com and find a section on the website which is talking about the cards. So the cards are the 100 tasks that are broken down, and just spend 15 minutes, scroll through, have a look at them, and just start thinking about, in my family, who's doing what? Like, is it equitable? Is it not? Who's holding what? And you can just do that, take 10, 15 minutes, do that by yourself. You can do it on your commute, you can do it having a cup of coffee. So that's one thing. If you want to go a little bit further, then maybe you could do that with your partner and invite them and say, look, I've heard about this thing called Fair Play method. I just want to sit down and talk through with you. Who's holding what? Again, you can scroll through fairplaylife.com, look at the cards, and just work out who's holding what right now. And if you really want to, you can buy the cards, the physical cards, and then you can deal them out on the table, and like it's more tactile. So that's like the extra level.
That's incredible. And it is a case of inviting. I like that conversation. Inviting. Let's be aware of what the tasks are.
Make the invisible visible.
Make the invisible visible. Thank you so much.
Welcome,
Honestly, and to you listening, I want to remind you, we'll put a link in the description below. Go and look it up. Go and be aware of the invisible workload and make it visible. Until next time, remember, build your foundation, believe in your potential, and become unstoppable. Thank you for joining us today, Rachel.
Thank you.